Li Jihan adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform one last time before the doors opened. The neutral space station called Harmony's Edge floated in the empty space between human and alien territories. Today would mark the first official meeting between Earth and the Valerian Empire. As Earth's newest ambassador, Jihan felt the weight of his entire species on his shoulders. The meeting room was enormous, with walls made of clear crystal that showed the stars outside. Jihan had arrived early to prepare. He was not like other diplomats. Before joining the diplomatic corps, he had been an engineer who built machines and fixed broken technology on distant planets. His hands were calloused from years of working with tools, and his mind was sharp from solving complex problems. The other diplomats thought he was an odd choice for such an important mission, but Earth's leaders believed his practical experience would help him understand alien technology and thinking. The doors at the far end of the room slid open with a soft whisper. Jihan straightened his back and prepared to greet humanity's first alien allies. He had studied everything Earth knew about the Valerians. They were tall, elegant beings with pale blue skin and large eyes that could see more colors than humans. Their empire stretched across dozens of star systems, and they had technology that humans could only dream of having. Princess Nara Velthara entered the room first. She was taller than Jihan expected, almost 7 feet tall, with graceful movements that reminded him of flowing water. Her skin had a soft blue glow, and patterns of silver light moved slowly across her arms and neck. These patterns, Jihan knew from his studies, showed her emotions and health. Right now, they moved in calm, steady waves that meant she was relaxed and in control. Behind the princess came 6 other Valerians, each wearing robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. They moved in perfect formation, their large eyes, scanning the room for any signs of danger. Jihan noticed that their weapons were hidden but probably deadly. These beings had ruled space for thousands of years, while humans were still learning to make fire. Princess Nara walked toward the center of the room with confidence. Her large eyes, which were the color of deep ocean water, looked around the space with interest. Then her gaze fell on Jihan, and everything changed. The princess stopped walking so suddenly that one of her guards almost bumped into her. Her large eyes grew even wider, and the silver patterns on her skin began to flash rapidly. For a moment, that felt like forever. She just stared at Jihan as if she had seen a ghost or a long-lost friend. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Jihan felt confused by her reaction. He had expected many things from this first meeting, maybe fear, curiosity, or even disgust, but he had not expected the princess to look at him like she knew him from somewhere. He was certain he had never met any aliens before today. Earth had only made contact with the Valerian Empire 6 months ago. "Your Highness," Jihan said, bowing slightly as he had been taught. "I am Li Jihan, speaking for all of humanity. We are honored to meet you and hope to build friendship between our peoples." The princess did not respond right away. One of her advisors, an older Valerian with darker blue skin and scars on his face, stepped forward and whispered something in her ear. The princess blinked several times, as if waking up from a dream, and the silver patterns on her skin slowly returned to their normal calm movement. "Forgive me," Princess Nara said, her voice like soft music. "I was surprised by something unexpected. Please, let us begin our discussions." But even as she spoke, her eyes never left Jihan's face. He could see her studying every detail, his dark hair, his brown eyes, the shape of his nose and jaw. It made him feel uncomfortable, like being examined by a scientist who had found a fascinating new specimen. The formal meeting began with both sides sharing basic information about their peoples. Jihan spoke about Earth's history, human culture, and their hopes for peaceful trade and friendship. The princess talked about the Valerian Empire, their advanced technology, and their interest in learning about this new species called humans. Throughout the entire discussion, Jihan noticed that Princess Nara seemed distracted. She would start to say something, then stop and stare at him again. Her advisors kept looking at her with worry, clearly confused by their usually calm and controlled leader's strange behavior. When it came time for the traditional exchange of gifts, Jihan presented a small sculpture made from earth wood, carved to show a tree growing from a seed. "This represents growth and new beginnings," he explained. "We hope our friendship will grow like this tree." Princess Nara accepted the gift with hands that trembled slightly. When their fingers touched during the exchange, she pulled back as if she had been shocked by electricity. The silver patterns on her skin began flashing so quickly they looked like lightning storms. "We should demonstrate one of our customs," Jihan said, trying to keep the meeting moving smoothly despite the princess's odd behavior. "On Earth, when we meet someone new, we shake hands." He extended his right hand toward her with a friendly smile. The princess looked at his offered hand like it was a dangerous weapon. Her breathing became faster, and the light patterns on her skin went completely white, something Jihan had never seen in any of his studies about Valerian biology. One of her guards moved closer, hand near his weapon, clearly thinking something was wrong. Finally, Princess Nara reached out and briefly touched Jihan's hand. The moment their skin made contact, she gasped and pulled away. She stood up so quickly that her chair fell backward. I need to consult our archives," she said, her musical voice now shaky and uncertain. "This meeting is ended for today. We will speak again tomorrow." Before Jihan could respond, the princess and her entire group left the room quickly, almost running. Jihan stood alone among the scattered papers and overturned chair, completely confused about what had just happened. As he watched their ship leave through the crystal walls, Jihan touched his hand where the princess had briefly held it. For just a moment, he had felt something strange, like a memory that was not his own, or a song he had heard before but could not remember. He shook his head, thinking it was probably just nerves from his first diplomatic mission. But deep inside, something had awakened, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Jihan could not sleep that night. He kept thinking about the strange way Princess Nara had looked at him, like she was seeing someone else. He walked around his small quarters on the space station, looking out at the stars and trying to understand what had happened. Finally, he sat down at his computer and began writing his report for Earth's government. As he typed about the meeting, his mind wandered back to his time as an engineer. 5 years ago, he had been part of a team sent to explore a planet far from Earth. The planet had been called Terra 7 in their reports, but Jihan always thought of it as the Garden World. When they first arrived, it had been covered with amazing plants and crystal-clear lakes, even though their instruments said it should have been a dead rock floating in space. The team had been sent to find out why the planet was so perfect for life when everything they knew about science said it should be impossible. What they found changed everything Jihan thought he knew about the universe. Hidden beneath the beautiful forests were massive machines, bigger than entire cities. These machines had been working for thousands of years, slowly changing the dead planet into a living paradise. They turned poisonous air into something humans could breathe. They brought water up from deep underground and spread it across the land. They even controlled the weather to make sure the right amount of rain fell at the right times. The strangest thing was that these machines looked familiar to Jihan. Not exactly like human technology, but close enough that he could understand how they worked when none of his teammates could. Dr. Park Sun-ho, the team's leader, had been amazed when Jihan figured out how to turn on systems that had been dead for centuries. The other engineers, Kim Taemin and Cho Hyemi, had studied the alien machines for weeks without understanding even the basic controls. "It's like you've seen this technology before," Dr. Park had said, watching Jihan work with machines that should have been completely foreign to any human. "Are you sure you haven't been holding back some secret knowledge?" Jihan had laughed at the suggestion. He was just a regular engineer from Seoul who was good at fixing broken things. But as the days passed, he found himself understanding more and more of the alien technology. He could see patterns in the designs that reminded him of things he had learned in engineering school, but made more advanced and elegant. The machines were not just tools for changing planets. They were works of art. Every part was designed to be beautiful as well as useful. The control panels looked like they were made from carved crystal, but they responded to touch like the most advanced computer systems. The power sources hummed, with energy that felt clean and endless, unlike anything humans had ever created. Jihan spent 3 weeks on Terra 7, learning how the ancient machines worked. He found systems that could move mountains, change the chemistry of oceans, and even adjust how fast a planet spun around its star. The technology was so advanced that it seemed like magic, but somehow his engineer's mind could follow the logic behind it. Then the solar storm hit their ship. Captain Lee Mira had tried to get everyone back to the ship quickly when their instruments detected the massive burst of energy from the nearby star, but they were too late. The storm damaged their engines and destroyed most of their navigation equipment. They were trapped on Terra 7 with no way to call for help and no way to leave. That was when Jihan made a decision that saved all their lives, but changed his forever. He had discovered that the ancient machines on Terra 7 had their own communication system, something that could send messages across impossible distances without being affected by solar storms. But using the system required connecting directly with the alien technology in a way that no human had ever tried before. Don't do it, Jihan, Kim Taemin had warned him. We don't know what that thing might do to a human brain, but they were going to die if they could not call for help. Jihan placed his hands on the crystal control panel and opened his mind to the alien machine. The experience was like being struck by lightning and bathed in warm sunlight at the same time. Information flowed through his brain faster than he could understand, showing him things about the universe that no human had ever known. For a moment, he saw through the eyes of the beings who had built these machines. They were tall and graceful, with eyes that held starlight and minds that could understand the deepest secrets of creation. They had built these machines not just to change planets, but to prepare the galaxy for something important. Something that was coming. When Jihan woke up 3 days later, their rescue ship was already landing. His emergency message had reached Earth somehow, even though their communication equipment was completely broken. His teammates were amazed and grateful, but Jihan felt different. His eyes now had tiny flecks of silver in them that seemed to catch light in strange ways. His mind worked faster than before, and he could solve engineering problems that had puzzled him for years. The medical doctors on Earth could not explain what had happened to him. They said he was perfectly healthy, maybe even healthier than before. But Jihan knew something had changed inside him. Sometimes he would dream about machines he had never seen and understand technology that humans had not invented yet. Now, sitting alone on Harmony's edge, Jihan wondered if his experience on Terra 7 was connected to Princess Nara's strange reaction. He pulled up the files about Valerian history that Earth's diplomats had been given to study. Most of it was basic information about their government and culture, but there were also some stories that the Valerians called myths and legends. One story caught his attention. It talked about an ancient race called the Architects, beings who had traveled across the galaxy long ago, building machines and changing planets to make them perfect for life. According to the Valerian legends, the Architects had promised to return someday when the galaxy needed them most. They were described as having eyes like captured starlight and the ability to understand the fundamental forces that held the universe together. Jihan looked at his reflection in the dark computer screen. His brown eyes definitely had flecks of silver now, tiny points of light that seemed to move and shift when he was thinking hard about complex problems. Could it be possible that the machines on Terra 7 had been built by these architects? And, if so, what did that mean about what had happened to him when he connected with their technology? He was still thinking about these questions when his computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Princess Nara, sent through the station's communication system. Ambassador Jihan, the message read, I apologize for my behavior during our meeting. I have been researching some old records, and I believe we need to speak privately tomorrow. There are things about your species that you may not know, things that could change everything for both our peoples. Please meet me in conference room 7 at 800 station time. Come alone. Jihan stared at the message for a long time. Princess Nara had found something in her research, something about humans that even humans did not know. His hand moved unconsciously to touch the silver flecks in his eyes, and he wondered if he was ready to learn the truth about what he had become on Terra 7. Princess Nara arrived at conference room 7 looking like she had not slept at all. The silver patterns on her skin moved in worried, quick flashes, and her large ocean blue eyes were darker than they had been the day before. She carried a small device that looked like a crystal tablet, and her hands shook slightly as she held it. Jihan was already waiting for her. He had spent the entire night thinking about her message and the strange connection he felt to the ancient machines on Terra 7. When she entered the room, he noticed that she stopped for a moment when she saw him, just like she had done during their first meeting. But this time, she seemed more prepared for whatever she was feeling. "Thank you for coming alone," Princess Nara said, sitting down across from him. "What I need to tell you cannot be shared with others yet. It is too dangerous and too important." "I'm listening," Jihan replied. He could see that whatever she had discovered was making her very afraid and very excited at the same time. Princess Nara touched her crystal tablet, and images appeared in the air above it. The first image showed a star map of the galaxy with thousands of small lights marking different star systems. Some of the lights were blue, which Jihan knew meant they were part of the Valerian Empire. Others were red, marking territories controlled by different alien species. A few were green, showing the small area where humans lived. "This is what the galaxy looks like today," Princess Nara said. "Hundreds of different species, each controlling their own space, each thinking they understand their own history." She touched the tablet again, and the image changed to show the same galaxy, but much older. Most of the lights were now golden, and they were connected by lines that looked like a vast network covering everything. "This is what the galaxy looked like 50,000 years ago," she continued. "Back then, there was only one species that mattered. We call them the architects. They built machines that could change entire planets. They created life where there was none. They connected star systems with technology that we still do not understand. For 20,000 years, they ruled everything." Jihan leaned forward, studying the golden network. It reminded him of the control systems he had seen on Terra 7, but much larger and more complex. "What happened to them?" "They vanished," Princess Nara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "All at once, all across the galaxy, they simply disappeared. They left behind their machines, their cities, their technology. But the architects themselves were gone, as if they had never existed." She touched the tablet again, and new images appeared. These showed tall, graceful beings with pale skin and large eyes that seemed to hold tiny stars. Jihan's breath caught in his throat. The beings in the images looked almost human, but more elegant and refined, like humans who had evolved for thousands more years. "The Valerian people have kept records of the architects for 40,000 years, Princess Nara explained. "They are our most sacred texts, passed down from generation to generation. Most of my people think the stories are just myths, beautiful tales about gods who shaped the galaxy. But some of us have always believed they were real." "Why are you telling me this?" Jihan asked, though he was starting to suspect he already knew the answer. Princess Nara's silver patterns flashed brightly. "Because yesterday when I saw you, I recognized something. Your eyes, the way you move, even the way you think. It all matches the descriptions in our oldest texts." She paused as if gathering courage for what she was about to say. "Jihan, I believe that humans are the descendants of the architects." The words hit Jihan like a physical blow. He sat back in his chair, his mind racing. "That's impossible. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossils, genetic records, millions of years of evolutionary history." "Do you?" Princess Nara asked gently. "Or do you have the records that the architects wanted you to have?" She showed him more images from her crystal tablet. These were pictures of ancient ruins found on dozens of different planets across the galaxy. All of them showed the same style of architecture, the same type of machines, the same beautiful crystal and metal designs that Jihan had seen on Terra 7. "Every species in the galaxy has found architect ruins," Princess Nara explained. "But none of us could ever understand how they worked. The technology was too advanced, too different from anything we had developed. For 40,000 years, these machines have sat silent and dead." Jihan's hands were trembling now. "But I understood them. On Terra 7, I could make them work." "Exactly." Princess Nara leaned forward, her eyes intense. "You didn't just understand the technology, Jihan. You connected with it in a way that should have been impossible. The machines responded to you like they were waiting for someone exactly like you." She touched her tablet one more time, and the final image appeared. It was a page from an ancient Valerian text, covered with symbols that looked like flowing water mixed with starlight. But somehow Jihan could read it. The words formed in his mind as clearly as if they were written in his own language. When the great darkness comes from beyond the galaxy's edge, he read aloud, not understanding how he knew what the symbols meant. The architects will return in new forms. They will have forgotten their true nature, but the machines will remember them. Look for those with starlight in their eyes and wisdom in their hands. They will be the key to saving all life. Princess Nara stared at him in amazement. You can read the ancient script. No non-Valerian has ever been able to do that before. Jihan looked down at his hands, seeing the tiny silver flecks under his fingernails that he had never noticed before. The great darkness. What does that mean? Something that terrifies every species in the galaxy, Princess Nara said, her voice becoming grim. Our long-range sensors have detected something moving toward us from the space between galaxies. Something huge and hungry that destroys everything in its path. We call them the Devourers. She showed him one final image, a telescope picture of something that looked like a dark cloud with red lightning inside it. The cloud was massive, bigger than entire star systems, and it was moving steadily toward their galaxy. The Devourers consume everything, Princess Nara explained. Planets, stars, even the space between them. They turn matter into energy to fuel their growth, and they never stop expanding. Our calculations show they will reach the outer edge of our galaxy in less than 2 years. Jihan felt cold fear spreading through his body. And you think this is the great darkness mentioned in your ancient texts? I know it is, she replied, because the texts also say that the architects didn't just disappear. They transformed themselves and scattered across the galaxy, becoming something new while keeping their essential nature hidden even from themselves. They did this to prepare for the return of the Devourers. You're saying that humans are the architects in disguise? Jihan said slowly. That we've been unconsciously preparing for this war for 50,000 years. Princess Nara nodded. And now, it's time for humanity to remember what they really are. Because without the architects' technology and knowledge, the Devourers will destroy every living thing in the galaxy. Jihan stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a force of destruction was coming that could end everything. And somehow he was supposed to help stop it by embracing a heritage he had never known he possessed. What do we do now? He asked. Now, Princess Nara said, standing beside him. We wake up the rest of your species, and we pray that we have enough time to remember how to be the architects again. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, but it felt like 3 years to Jihan. He spent most of the trip in deep conversations with Princess Nara, learning about the ancient architects and trying to understand what it meant to be their descendant. The Valerian princess had brought several of her most trusted advisors, including Master Kale, an old scholar who knew more about architect technology than anyone else in the galaxy. During the journey, strange things began happening to Jihan. His dreams were filled with images of massive machines and cities of crystal and light. He would wake up with knowledge he had never learned, understanding mathematical equations that human science had not yet discovered. The silver flecks in his eyes grew brighter each day, and sometimes when he touched the ship's control panels, they would respond in ways that amazed even the Valerian crew. It's like watching someone remember how to breathe, Princess Nara told him one evening as they stood in the ship's observation deck, watching Earth grow larger ahead of them. The architect knowledge was never gone from your people. It was just sleeping. When they reached Earth, Jihan immediately contacted the Global Science Council. He told them about the Devourers and the urgent need to find other humans who had encountered architect technology. At first, the Earth leaders thought he was suffering from some kind of alien mind control. But when Jihan demonstrated his ability to interface with Valerian technology in ways that should have been impossible, they started to take him seriously. Within a week, they had found 12 other humans who had experienced similar awakenings. Park Min-ho was a quantum physicist from Busan who had been studying strange energy readings from a set of ancient ruins in the Andromeda Research Station. When he arrived at the meeting facility in Geneva, Jihan could see the same silver flecks in his eyes that he saw in his own reflection. I thought I was going crazy, Minho said, shaking Jihan's hand with obvious relief. For months, I've been dreaming about machines I've never seen, understanding physics that shouldn't be possible. My colleagues think I've had some kind of breakthrough, but I know the knowledge isn't coming from my own research. Kim Yuna was an archaeologist who had spent 2 years studying architect ruins on a planet in the Alpha Centauri system. She was a small, intense woman with quick hands and bright eyes that now held the same starlight that Jihan and Minho shared. The ruins would respond to my presence, she explained. Ancient systems would activate when I touched them. I could read symbols that predated any known written language. One by one, the other awakened humans shared their stories. Most had encountered architect technology during deep space missions or archaeological expeditions. All of them described the same experience. A sudden connection with machines that should have been completely alien, followed by dreams and knowledge that seemed to come from outside their own minds. Master Kale studied each of the humans with great interest. In all our history, no Valerian has ever been able to activate architect technology the way you can, he told them. Even our most advanced scientists can barely understand their basic systems, but you can interface with their machines as naturally as breathing. The real breakthrough came when they brought the awakened humans to the secret facility where Earth kept its most advanced alien artifacts. These were pieces of architect technology that had been found on various planets but never understood. The moment Jihan walked into the storage room, every piece of ancient machinery began to glow with soft, warm light. Incredible, whispered Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading xenoarchaeologist. These devices have been completely inert for decades. Our best scientists couldn't even figure out how to turn them on. Yuna approached a crystal panel that was covered with symbols similar to the ones she had seen in her archaeological work. When she placed her palm against it, the symbols began to move and change, forming new patterns that somehow made perfect sense to all the awakened humans in the room. It's a star map, Minho said, his voice filled with wonder. But not just showing where stars are. It's showing the connections between them, the flow of energy that links every system in the galaxy. Through the crystal panel, they could see the vast network of architect technology that still existed throughout the galaxy. Thousands of installations on hundreds of planets, all waiting for the return of their creators. Most importantly, they could see the defensive systems that had been built to protect the galaxy from threats like the Devourers. Princess Nara worked closely with the awakened humans, sharing Valerian records and helping them understand their new abilities. As the weeks passed, Jihan found himself spending more and more time with her, learning about Valerian culture while teaching her about human determination and creativity. Your people are remarkable, she told him one evening as they worked together to decode an ancient architect manual. The original architects were brilliant, but they were also rigid in their thinking. They built perfect systems and expected them to work forever without change. But humans, you take their perfect designs and make them better. Jihan had been thinking the same thing. Every piece of architect technology they studied seemed to be missing something that human engineering could provide. The ancient machines were incredibly advanced, but they lacked the adaptability and creative problem-solving that humans excelled at. Maybe that was the plan all along, he suggested. Maybe the architects knew their technology needed to evolve, so they transformed themselves into a species that could push beyond their original limitations. The awakened humans worked day and night to understand and improve the architect's systems. They discovered defense networks that could protect entire star systems, weapons that could destroy planets, and communication systems that worked faster than light itself. But most importantly, they found something that made Princess Nara both excited and terrified. This is the Master Archive, Yuna explained, standing before a massive crystal structure that had been built into a mountain on a planet near Earth. It contains the complete knowledge and memories of the original architects. Everything they learned, everything they built, everything they discovered about the universe. The Master Archive was too complex for any one person to interface with safely. But working together, the awakened humans could access different sections and share what they learned. Jihan found himself responsible for the military and defensive systems, while Minho worked on the advanced physics and energy technologies. Yuna focused on the historical records and cultural knowledge. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The Devourers had attacked before, millions of years ago. The original architects had fought them and won, but at a terrible cost. Most of their civilization had been destroyed, and they realized that they could not face another such attack without evolving beyond their current limitations. So they divided themselves, Princess Nara said, as she studied the records with growing amazement. Some became the Valerians and other species, keeping the memories and knowledge alive through stories and legends. Others became humanity, retaining the ability to interface with their technology while developing the creativity and adaptability needed to improve it. A galaxy-wide insurance policy, Jihan murmured. Scatter the pieces of their civilization so that when the Devourers returned, there would be a better chance of stopping them. The final piece of the puzzle came when they discovered the architect battle plans. The original defense had required perfect coordination between hundreds of different star systems, using technology that could manipulate space and time itself. But the new plan, designed for their awakened descendants, was different. It relied not on perfection, but on the ability to adapt and improvise in the face of the unknown. We're going to need every species in the galaxy to work together, Jihan told the assembled leaders of Earth and the Valerian Empire. Humans to operate the architect technology, Valerians to coordinate the defense, and every other species to provide the resources and support we'll need. Princess Nara smiled at him, her silver patterns glowing with hope and determination. Then we'd better start building the largest alliance the galaxy has ever seen, because the Devourers will be here in less than 18 months. As Jihan looked around the room at the faces of humans and aliens working together toward a common goal, he felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, he truly understood his purpose. He was not just an engineer or a diplomat. He was an architect, awakened at the galaxy's greatest hour of need. The Devourers arrived exactly when the Valerian calculations predicted they would. Jihan was standing in the command center of New Architect Station, a massive structure built from both human and Valerian technology, when the long-range sensors first detected them. The dark cloud that appeared on the screens was even more terrifying in reality than it had been in the ancient images. They're bigger than we expected, Princess Nara said, her voice steady despite the fear that showed in her silver patterns. The cloud spans 12 light-years across, and it's growing as it consumes the outer star systems. 18 months of desperate preparation had transformed the galaxy. The alliance between humans and Valerians had grown to include 47 different species, each contributing their unique abilities to the defense effort. Ancient architect installations had been awakened on 300 planets, creating a network of defensive systems that stretched across known space. But the Devourers were stronger than the ancient records had suggested. As they moved through the galaxy's outer rim, they consumed entire star systems in days instead of the weeks that the original architects had expected. Billions of beings fled toward the galactic center, seeking protection behind the defensive lines that Jihan and the other awakened humans had spent months building. Status report. Jihan called out to the mixed crew of humans and aliens working at the control stations around him. Over the past year, he had changed from a simple engineer into something that felt both ancient and entirely new. The silver in his eyes now swirled like tiny galaxies, and his understanding of architect technology had grown beyond what even the original builders had possessed. All primary defense grids are online, reported Minho, who had become the master of the energy weapon systems. We have 47 planetary shield generators active and 200 mobile battle platforms ready for deployment. Communication. Networks are stable across all allied systems, added Yuna, who had become their expert on coordinating the massive alliance. Every species is reporting ready status. They're scared, but they're committed to the fight. Jihan nodded, then turned to look at Princess Nara, who had become his closest partner in both the war effort and in life. Over the months of working together, they had developed a bond that went beyond mere cooperation. She understood his human creativity and determination, while he had learned to appreciate her Valerian wisdom and patience. "Are you ready for this?" she asked him quietly. "Nobody could be ready for this," Jihan replied honestly. "But we have something the original architects didn't have. We have each other, and we have the ability to change our plans when the unexpected happens. The first real test came when the Devourers reached the Kepler defense line, a chain of fortified star systems that formed the Alliance's outer perimeter. The ancient architect weapons performed exactly as designed, creating barriers of pure energy that should have stopped any known force, but the Devourers adapted to the attack faster than anyone had thought possible. "They're learning from our weapons," reported Captain Torres from the front lines. "Every shot we fire teaches them how to defend against the next one. The energy barriers are losing effectiveness." This was the moment Jihan had been preparing for. The original architects had been brilliant, but they had always fought the same way, using the same perfect tactics that had worked for thousands of years. Humans, however, had learned to improvise and adapt during their short history of warfare. "All units,